Hey friends, welcome to Your Story Matters podcast. My name is Michaela, and I am so happy you're here. My hope for this show is that we experience the power of storytelling and understand that we are the main characters in our story so that we can live as our truly authentic selves. You're in the right place to hear real stories that will challenge, inspire, and encourage you on your personal growth journey. I hope you enjoy. Today on the show is Lucinda Shore. Lucinda is an author, creative visionary, and resilience educator devoted to helping people rediscover their inner wisdom and transform life's challenges into meaningful growth. Her work centers on the belief that resilience is not simply an enduring hardship, but about developing the emotional awareness, courage, and compassion that allows individuals to turn adversity into strength. Her professional journey reflects a unique blend of creativity, entrepreneurship, and service. Lucinda is the founder of the nonprofit Safe Haven for Pets. She also built a successful career as a multi-million-dollar sales producer and worked in a hospitality interior design, experiences that shape her ability to bring vision, structure, and leadership to the projects she creates today. Drawing from her own journey of healing and personal transformation, Lucinda's work bridges storytelling, psychology, and spiritual reflection. Through her teachings, she explores how life's experiences can become mirrors that guide people toward deeper self-understanding and a more empowered way of living. She is the creator of the Mirror approach, a self-reflection framework designed to help people understand the subconscious patterns that shape relationships, emotions, and personal choices. This approach encourages individuals to view life's challenges as opportunities for awareness, growth, and resilience. Lucinda is also the author and creator of Century of Tree Magic, a whimsical children's book and curriculum series that introduces young minds to emotional intelligence, creativity, and the wisdom found in nature. The stories follow Blaze, a curious blue wolf pup with living vine-like branches and healing abilities, and his glowing owlet friend Lily as they explore friendship, courage, and the magic that lives within each of us. The Century of Tree Magic resilience curriculum is now being introduced into educational settings, supporting children in developing emotional awareness, creativity, and problem-solving skills. In this episode, you will hear Lucinda's song, Rebirthing Light.
The sun could fall at any time, my dear. Leave the day behind, release the fear. Then one day light ignites within a tear. A dream wakes up, becomes sincere. In a field of dandelions wide, where silent wishes learn to ride, the lion roars from deep inside, calling worlds where hope resides. Standing on the front line, learning to see every broken piece becoming me, every shadow teaching how to be free. Hear the bluebirds sing my name, calling dragons through the flame. Emerald eyes pierce every veil. Love survives where worlds once failed. We are rising, we are real. We are more than what we feel. Ancient wisdom, hearts of steel. Rebirthing light, revealing truth. Beaming from the soul's own fire, leaving walls no fear can wire. A heart so pure it lifts us higher, carried by divine desire. Dragons surreal in silver skies, truth reflected in your eyes. Every ending softly cries, begin again, awaken, rise. Evolving gently, learning grace. Time bends slowly in this place. Every scar a sacred trace. Hear the bluebirds sing my name, calling dragons through the flame. Emerald eyes pierce every veil. Love survives where worlds once failed. We are rising, we are real. We are more than what we feel. Ancient wisdom, hearts of steel. Rebirthing light, revealing truth. Capturing the songs of old. Stories stories written in our bones. Every prayer, every tone leads us home, leads us home. Hear the bluebirds sing tonight, calling souls into the light. Dreams awaken, take their flight, turning darkness into sight. We are healing, we are whole, written in the cosmic scroll. Ancient wisdom, burning gold, rebirthing love inside the soul. The sun may fall, but still we rise, with starlight written in our
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Your Story Matters podcast. I am so happy that you have taken time out of your day to spend it with me, and I am so happy to be spending time with my new friend Lucinda. After the fates have decided to do whatever they've done, we have finally found our connection, because technology is sometimes not always our friend. But Lucinda, it's good to see you. Wonderful to meet you. Thank you for being a part of this today.
It's a pleasure. I've listened to so many of your podcasts, and the women that have come forth to share their stories are so inspiring, almost a little bit intimidating. So it's teeing me up to begin my story with a bang. So I've been contemplating, how do you go about telling your story? And so I'm just going to start with the end and then rewind to kind of talk a little bit about how I've gotten to this point. But I think this aha moment,
Floor is yours.
at least in this period of my life, is realizing that I'm a daughter of God. And it's taken me a tremendous amount of adversity to get me here to this point. And so, my life started out, as many of ours do, with the innocence of coming into this world and being dependent on our family members to provide for us. And I'm a big believer that we divinely chose to come into this world, choosing our parents and our mission. And I want to believe that all of those things happened before I came here. So it's been a game of Clue for me. And each one of these little breadcrumbs has often been a kiss or a punch or whatever may have unfolded. But in the beginning, I grew up in a dichotomy of a family dynamics. My dad was very faith driven, and my mother was a PhD psychology. So I was a walking contradiction from birth, holding both of those components. But I have found that my faith is the one that brings me the most peace, the most joy, and the most harmony in relationships. And the analytical mind is beautiful, has allowed me to be extremely successful in my professional life. But it also has created a little bit of a daunting component to my life that has made things a little bit more challenging than I think they needed to be, just because my brain was getting in the way. And so I wanted to share that one of my little stories is I have always been extremely intuitive and always connected to the divine. And I remember my mother wanting to protect me from the adversities of society, not being okay with you knowing things and having that inner peace, right? And that inner knowing. And so she prepped me to tell people, if they ever asked me how I knew something, to tell them that a little bird told me so and skip away. And in that beautiful gift that she gifted me, was she gifted me the space to be comfortable in my inner knowings, to trust that inner voice that I think a lot of us lose because society doesn't really support it and allow it to unfold in a organic way. And so by her doing that, she would be able to talk to people and ask them questions like, well, what did Lucinda say that made you ask this? And we would be in church and I would just walk up to somebody and touch their belly and say, oh, I can't wait to meet your baby boy. And they would ask me, how do you know this? And I would say, oh, a little bird told me so. And I would skip away and tell my mom. And then my mother would have a conversation with them. And this In this one particular instance, the woman shared that she had had 2 miscarriages and they weren't telling anyone that she was pregnant. And my mother comforted her and said, if Lucinda says you're going to have a baby boy, you're going to have a baby boy. So it ended up being this beautiful exchange. But I also know that a lot of these gifts and many of us who are chosen or maybe not chosen might not be the best word, but those of us who choose to serve God, I think we're put under the fire a lot more than most people to refine our gifts. And it was never intended to be a punishment, even though there were times where I certainly did not feel okay about what was going on in my life. But in hindsight, I see the value of each and every one of those challenges and those hardships. And so I want to say that I grew up and started growing up with an open heart, but it very quickly changed for me. And it shifted because of the programming of the world. I wanted to fit in as everyone does. And so in that process, that curiosity and innocence was one of the things that I used to pray and ask God to please do not let me lose my childish one. And I was actually okay with the trauma. And I mean severe neglect and trauma as a child. I mean, my first childhood memory is of me and a sibling simultaneously being strangled against a wall. And I was only 3 years old, tiny little towhead, blonde hair. And I remember for years walking past parks and seeing little children playing, and I would literally grieve and weep my youth, looking at those children and thinking to myself, how is this possible that in this world that type of unkindness can even exist? So that was a real big challenge for me in my younger years. But somehow there was always a thread connected to the divine that there was a reason. There had to be a reason for all of it. And so that game of Clue of getting to where I am now, I have a deeper understanding and compassion for resilience, for bouncing back, for being able to stand against the adversity, to be able to speak our truth and things of that nature. So I believe that that's a huge cornerstone of my story is my divine connection and having the faith. And my faith is what has allowed me to hold my center, to stay grounded, and to continue to believe in myself and humanity. My first huge hiccup, that was another huge defining moment for me in my life, was when I ended up getting divorced when I was about 30. And that was the first time that I truly felt like I had failed at something. But again, it became one of my best teachers. I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't loved him for 13 years, been committed to that relationship, understood some of my flaws about people pleasing and the enabling and the other components, that the role that I played in order for that relationship to have unraveled the way that it did, that I played such a crucial point in it. And that was very eye-opening for me. I think through all of the challenges that I have had, the most profound one was the car wreck that I had where I ended up with a traumatic brain injury. And I had overcompensated in my life with the people pleasing and the intellectual and all of that stuff. So I had succeeded in my career with a nonprofit. I sold $12 million worth of carpet in 1 year in my 20s. I mean, I just overachieved and never really talked about it. It was just, what was the next thing to do? And so I stayed really, really busy. And in that busyness, I didn't have to face a lot of my pain and grief and all the shadow side of things would be a good way to describe it, the darker sides of myself. But in that car wreck, I didn't have any other choice, because in that instant, like that, my brain it was gone. My brain was gone. And all the crutches that I had were intellectual. I could talk my way in and out of anything. And not having that slowed me down. And being a socialite and an extrovert and in a city with over 4 million people, to go from that noise to a head injury where even just driving, I would get sick. And so I'm a bit of an extremist. And so when the doctors told me there was nothing more that they could do for me, I started doing research on PTSD and anxiety and brain injuries. What can you do? I mean, there's no pill you can take to fix that. And so I read the best thing you can do is be in nature, be near salt water, less noise. The quieter you are, the better. And so I went and rented as a 600-acre plantation. And I did my hero's journey within, the healer's journey within. And those were the best years of my life. They were beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And if you would have told me 20 years ago that I was going to be okay living on an island by myself with my dog, I would have told you there's no way that that is possible. And if you speak to any of my friends that knew me from before, they would be like, there's no way that Lucinda will survive not having human interaction with other people. But because my memory was wiped and I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be that type of person, I thrived in the environment. And all kinds of beautiful gifts that I had always had that I didn't really tell anyone about surfaced with ease. And one of them is writing songs and writing children's stories, journaling about my own journey, where I was training with a shaman at the time to do more of my shadow work. Grief was the big component that hit me because it was the loss of my own life. And I was invited to reinvent myself. And each time I'm doing something, I'm comparing it to who I used to be and wondering why something was so hard or why I couldn't remember things. So it was a very debilitating but liberating moment all at the same time. And so what ended up pulling me off of the island is a family crisis occurred in North Carolina, and I needed to go and be with a family member to support them through some medical challenges. And in so doing, I joined a community and ended up finding my voice again. And so after, I don't know, maybe 5 years of not really communicating with people, I started communicating again. And that was definitely a ride too. It was not easy. I would talk more than what was probably appropriate, like an ADD kid. Because when you go from not talking to talking, it's definitely a new adventure. But I began leading in meditations and supporting other people in their journey of healing. It just organically unfolded. Clients started coming to me and things of that nature. But I think the richest thing that's come out of this is twofold. One is the resilience training that I'm currently working on in the educational system. And the second piece is a mirror approach that evolved. And it's actually something that my mother had instilled in me when I was younger. But I'm finding that it is such a beautiful way to assist people in tapping into their unconscious. I think we're running on maybe 5 or 10% of our own consciousness, and 90% of our brain is just programmed from all the things that we've learned from our past experiences. We're really just projecting onto each other most of the times. And we're completely unaware of it until we start unpacking our history and questioning our upbringing and all of what we were eating word-wise and conscious-wise in our communities. And so that's become my new favorite thing. Is taking that awareness and that the gifts that I received in that solitude, or being able to see the world in a completely different way. And in my uniqueness, I'm able to do what Wayne Dyer calls the shift. He's one of my favorite people who have passed. And it's basically just your mindset. If you change your script, you can flip it and ultimately change would be the word I'd like to say. You can almost alter your nervous system. You can calm your nervous system and you can begin to operate from a place of calm instead of a place of reaction. And a lot of the work that I work with to get there is understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And it typically doesn't have anything to do with the person who's sitting in front of you. So yeah, I think that's a pretty quick, good start to my 6 lives I've already had. I feel like I've already had.
How rich and how full it's been already, right? And we're just getting started.
Yeah.
I want to go back to a little bit of the early years because I grew up evangelical Pentecostal. It was conservative, but it wasn't like strict. I always feel the need to preface that because it's like women could wear pants. Like we weren't that kind of strict, and like we had women preach and all of that stuff. It kind of amazes me that faith and the spiritual realm have been at odds with each other for as long as I think they've been at odds with each other. I'm just thinking in real time, so I don't even have this fleshed out yet. But when you kind of get to more like, and I'll just say woo-woo spiritual to prove the point, there's prophecy in the Bible. There's all of these gifts that the Holy Spirit gives and all of this stuff. And then there's just other things outside of it. I don't think that list is exclusive. But then it's like, you're a kid and you're knowing that this woman's going to have a baby boy, and no one's known that yet. We're like, oh my gosh, like what has touched her kind of thing, right? And so some people think that's God and some people think that's woo-woo. And there's just been such both can exist, right?
Mhm.
Like two things can be true at the same time. It could have been both. It could have been one or the other. It could have been one leading to the other. So how has that been kind of like in your faith journey and then also in spirituality, but just having this insight that I guess it just depends on the light, where some people will call it one thing or the other, or has that even been your experience at all
Absolutely.
over
And
the
I'd
course
actually
of the
even add to that science is another
Mhm,
component, another piece of it. And I
mhm,
love science and I live between the worlds of miracles and science. When I think of religion or spirituality, I think in the realms of miracles and then I think in the realms of science. But for me, and it's really interesting because I woke up a couple of days ago with this inner knowing, like this inner, almost like an inner voice that was saying to me, science and religion are the same. They're not separate. And I thought, what in the world is this? And so I spent the entire day dissecting it and trying to understand how it's possible that science and religion, because when I think of religion, I think of miracles again. So I'm thinking miracles versus science. And we can go in that direction when you're ready, but I want to circle back and be more specific about my life experience. And for the first 30 years of my life, I never told anyone that I was intuitive. And if someone
mm,
mentioned to me that I was intuitive, I blew it off and I denied it. I didn't talk about it, but I've always had a private relationship with God and with Jesus and Mother Mary. I just did. And I remember when I was going through my divorce, I had my first panic attack because I lost control and I was,
mhm,
in my eyes, failing at my marriage. And that was a really hard human thing for me to cope with. And I
mm,
remember him coming to me, and that's when I knew I had to get out of the marriage. It wasn't because of him, it was because of me. It was bringing out the worst in me. I wasn't coping well. And laying on the floor in the bathroom and hyperventilating, I was like, this is ridiculous. I need to get a hold of myself. And prayer wasn't helping me with that piece of it. And so I went to a yoga class, and my father is a minister. And so he did not tell me this until years later, but he thought for sure I was going to go to hell. He was like, I don't know what my
yeah,
daughter's doing, this meditation and yoga. I am very concerned about her. But he never said anything. But I remember I ended up going to a hot yoga class because I was so type A personality that there's no way that a person who has a monkey mind and there were just thoughts in my head all the time was going to be able to go from 1,000 words a minute to stillness. It just wasn't going to happen. But in a hot yoga class, you're so
yeah,
exhausted that your poor brain doesn't stand a chance against that heat. And being a people pleaser and an athlete and all the other stuff, I was going to make sure I did all those poses. So I had stretched myself physically to exhaustion. And in that space of exhaustion was the first time that my mind had ever been quiet. And what I
mm,
found in that stillness and I found in that quietness was that's when I could hear the divine. It was
mm,
in that empty space. So thankfully, my father asked me later in life, what was meditation? And I said, oh, Daddy, that's when I pray, I'm talking to God. And when I'm meditating, I'm listening to God. And he said, oh, praise Jesus. She does listen. I mean, and I really was so type A. And like, when I'm telling you, if you'd ever met any of my other friends, they would be like, there's no way Lucinda can live on an island without 100 people to talk to. Like, she needs an audience all the time. And so,
yeah,
yeah. So I was the corporate world and I was in male dominated industries. I was interior design, construction. Then I went into carpet. I was a VP of a carpet company in Dalton, Georgia, which is considered the carpet capital of the United States, a very male dominated industry. So I never would have told anyone that I had intuition and that I knew what to say to comfort another human being or to connect with another living being. But after the car accident, it really didn't matter anymore because I didn't have anything left. There was nothing left. But the world changed too
mm,
in that time frame. So in those years, I think everyone knew I was intuitive. I just denied it. I was like, I don't know. I mean, it just makes sense. Can't you put two and two together? And, but I will share that my fascination with science and religion, they kind of support each other. That's what the subconscious, that's what this whole mirror approach is about. It is a scientific, practical way to bring you back to your own inner voice, your own connection with the divine. Because if each and every one of us is a fragment of God, we all have gifts to be sharing together to create what I believe is a heaven on earth. It's what we choose to find what separates us, that distances, that creates the discord and the wars and the problems. But if we will look for our our commonness, each one of us has so many commonalities. And then my curiosity for another person's differences makes that individual beautiful to me. I mean, even if it's something that I would never do, I'm oftentimes still wanting to relate and be supportive of that person in their journey wherever they are. So I guess the answer to your question is, yeah. I mean, there has been a lot of pushback with that. And I'm very grateful that my mother taught me at a very early age to just walk away. And I think in life, that's we have so many tools in our toolbox, and that's one of my tools. I can choose to walk away from any situation I want to. And after my PTSD, that was one of the things I would do. I would excuse myself to walk and go to the bathroom or to go get a sip of water because my PTSD showed up as like deer in the headlights where I would just freeze and I wouldn't be able to say or do anything. And so my nervous system would become very uncomfortable and it was a challenge. So just getting up and walking and going to the bathroom, disconnecting from that energy and moving into a space of finding my voice and then coming back out and choosing how I wanted to reenact in that situation gave me the breathing room to just remember to breathe, basically. I mean, isn't that such a funny thing? I was thinking the other day as I was talking to one of the children that I was working with about anxiety, and so many kids have it right now. It's a huge problem because technology has made our brains so smart, and our kids are smarter than we are because they have resources and technology at their fingertips, but they're not as emotionally in tuned, right? So they don't have the emotional capacity to hold all this intellect, and they're crumbling. They're literally crumbling. So I was just chatting with one of the kids and just saying, when did we learn? What storybook was it that we read that if we hold our breath, it will become invisible? Like, who taught us that? Because it's not true. As soon as you catch your breath, that problem, that situation is still standing right in front of us, right? But in reminding ourselves to breathe, and I find the irony of our breath is our first choice when we're born. We can choose to breathe or not, right? When we come out of the womb or out of our mommy's bellies, we get to choose life or not. If we choose to breathe, we live. And if we don't choose to breathe, we don't. And that, to me, is one of the pieces that connects me back to the divine, is my breath. And when I'm not breathing, I'm not connected to the divine. And that's when challenges happen for me. So we all breathe. We all have that in common. So I'm random, but I also had a near-death experience in 2007. In that experience, at least for me, when I went to the light, I felt that I sat with God because that's my belief system and that's my human way of understanding it. And they sent me back. God sent me back. And he gave me a message, and then he sent me back. And I didn't want to come back, because in that light, all I felt was complete and absolute bliss. I didn't feel any jealousy. I didn't feel any competition. I didn't feel any anger. I didn't feel grief. I didn't feel discord. I didn't feel nothing. Joy's very close to bliss, and so is love. But I felt connected to every living thing. I did not feel separated from anything. So when I came back into this physical body, it was extremely painful to go from that bliss to basically the chaos of our world. And I began to walk on this planet completely differently, knowing in my heart that all of us are connected, that we're not separate, that we all are God's children. God created all of us, or whatever it is that somebody wants to call it, if they want to call it source or a different name. To me, those are just words, and those are the human condition that we have, is to try to put words on something that is greater than anything that I feel that we could understand, because it would take us to literally like trees connect their roots. We would have to connect all of our brains together to understand who God is. And until we do that, I'm just reminded of how little we really know. So I don't know if that completely answers your question, but yeah.
No, that's good.
So how do you feel about your intuition?
Great question. It's different. I almost feel like it's more of an understanding rather than a predictive quality.
Mm-hmm.
With lots of things going on. I got divorced as well when I was 31.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of experiencing that unraveling of here's what religion says, here's what I say. Because it is my life to live, and it was no longer, um, a suitable environment for either of us. I can't speak for him,
Mm-hmm.
but it just wasn't what it started out as. And so there's always just been this, I think I just understand things quicker than maybe other people do. And I think I can live with a little bit more, I don't know if peace is the right word, because sometimes you don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily don't make peace with everything as quickly as it happens, because we're human and we have our experiences and that road to travel. But just the example coming to mind is my grandfather passed 14 and a half years ago. And before that, he suffered about 2 years of dementia. And so
Mm-hmm.
16 plus years ago, I remember my mom coming home. It was from the hospital or something. And she gets in from the garage into the hallway. And then she just starts sobbing. And so my dad, my brother, and I just surround her in this giant family group hug. And just in that moment, I had that download of this is the beginning of the end. He's never going to be the same again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to, like, every time I saw him, I knew that wasn't him because he was completely different from how we grew up. Just that questioning, and he wasn't like the happy go lucky person that he used to be because just the brain and everything, takes that toll. But it was just, I knew. And then we had 2 years and then he went. And yes, it still affected me because he was one of the greatest people in my life at that time. But then when it was over, it was like, I knew. So I would say that almost helped with my grief in a sense of I said goodbye as soon as that download happened, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even to him. So yeah, it was just that understanding of like, this is the way it works for now until we're on the other side or get more answers as to why things actually happen the way they do. Yeah, that's kind of how it reveals itself. It's like I just have an understanding of kind of how things work, and I can see generationally how things work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it kind of just makes sense and shows up for me in that kind of way.
I love that. Well, one of the things that I've learned is that projection piece. So the more we live, the more experiences we have, the more of a reservoir of understanding we can have for other people. And there's always that talk about the difference between spirituality and science. But that's what I love about the subconscious, because I can actually prove it. It's factual. I can literally just observe a person's behavior and choices and how they interact with another person. And within a few moments, and who knows whether it's intuition or just life experiences, but I can pretty much peg where their trauma was because they're reliving it.
Mm.
And it's almost as if
Mhm,
they're calling people to show up to mirror that trauma right back at them. And I've
mm,
gotten so good at it now that I just look at people and I say, you know what? You need me to play that role to support that fractured belief that you have. And I'm not going to play that role for you. You'll have to find someone else. But I
mhm.
love myself and I'm choosing myself, and I'm not going to play that role for you because it does not
Yeah,
serve me, nor does it serve you. But for whatever
right.
reason, you're still in a space, and I get it because I used to still be in spaces where I felt like I needed to continue to perpetuate my challenges. But now it's just so nice to be at that space where I can be like, no. And every now and then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to play this role out with you. And I know that playing this role out with you will not leave me in the best position because we'll no longer be friends or
Yeah.
we'll no longer be in a relationship. But I want to gift this to you so that you can find the love of your life. And they're out there, but not until you will open your heart enough to receive them. And I'd love to
Mm,
give an example if you're interested in hearing one.
please.
Yeah. So I was dating this guy for a couple of months, and he was an absolutely beautiful human. He was a giver and I'm a giver. And it was so funny to be in a relationship like that because I usually date takers, but I was healing. And so it was time. I was ready to receive someone that was going to be able to love me back and for me not to have to prove my value and all that other garbage that I was carrying around with me. And so we literally would chase each other and push each other around going down his stairwell to make coffee for each other. So who would ever get to the coffee maker first would get to make coffee for the other one for breakfast. But that's the kind of stuff that we were doing. But he had not dated someone that he cared for as much as he did me since his divorce. And he was accusing me of cheating on him. And he thought I was having an affair with my ex-husband who lived in California and I was living in Atlanta. And it was just such an absurd complaint that I wasn't even sure how to even have a conversation with him about it, right? But I knew that it was his past trauma and it didn't have anything to do with me. But I wasn't going to be able to thrive in an environment where a person that I loved couldn't trust me. And so on that particular day, I was like, okay, so we're going to do this. I'm going to show you what's really happening. And I ended up, and I'm hoping that my ex-husband doesn't listen to this podcast. I ended up calling my ex-husband and I put him on speakerphone and we got into an argument about the last time we were intimate. And he got really upset. And he was like, it was 6 years before that. And he was like, this was the problem in our marriage. You couldn't remember. Da, 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 da. And this guy's like, tell him we're engaged. I was like, no, like you have healing to do. This is your lane. This is something that I need for you to do for yourself. And I said, your ex-wife cheated on you and you haven't healed that wound yet. And you're projecting this into a healthy relationship. But until that wound is at least healed enough to have conversations about it and not like extreme, whatever that nonsense was, that has to end because now you're becoming what you hated. I mean, it's very interesting. We're still friends and he's a beautiful, absolutely wonderful marriage. And he thanks me all the time for helping him get a hold of himself and realizing how he was projecting all that toxicity onto other people. So I think that's the big gift that I'm contributing to the world now is putting together a formula that makes sense that people can use to ask themselves just a couple basic questions when they get triggered about all kinds of things that allows them to begin to sit in their own power with who they are and what they can change as themselves and stop doing the human thing. I think it's the Cartman triangle where it's you either play the victim, the persecutor, or the rescuer. And it's a drama and you just keep playing one of these roles. To step out of that drama or Shakespearean play, many people call it that, it's in taking accountability for who you are. And I think one of the softest things about this approach is that you don't need to know why anymore. The why doesn't seem to matter as much as you can be a co-creator with God and choose to let it go. Give it to God. Do whatever it is that feels right for you to separate yourself from that pain and change your story. Like for me, now that I have a deeper understanding that I'm the daughter of God, that releases me of so much expectation that I had towards my mother and my father. They're my birth parents, right? I have their DNA and I have their programming.
Yeah.
But my real father is, and that distance is what allows me to heal and be less likely to project my childhood trauma onto other innocent people.
That's good.
But that's a mindset. It's a mind shift and we can all do it, but it takes discipline.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I mean, it's a constant, it's like a sport. I'm constantly reminding my emotions that there's a high probability that they're not being honest with me, right?
Yeah.
That whatever I'm feeling in that instance that's causing my chest to tighten up isn't really like there's 100 different people in the room that are experiencing it a different way. And I wonder how many other people's chests are tightening up, right? So
Yeah.
I get to choose whether I lean into that tighteningness or whether I choose to breathe through it and let it just go. And I think that's the cornerstone for diseases too. I believe everything is a spiritual affliction before it ever even turns into the physical body or into the mental mind or even into your emotions, that it's an affliction of a disconnect with a deeper understanding of your connection to the divine, that you've separated. You've begun to doubt, fear, and that separation is what's causing the dis-ease in either in your mind, your heart, or your body. And we ignore it. We're taught in our society to buck up and move on and not talk about it, not just move forward. And yeah, that doesn't work. At least it didn't for me.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And I tried. I mean, I tried so hard in my younger years to intellectually spar and outdo and outrun all of that stuff. But it ended up catching up
Yeah.
with me. Yeah. I mean, I
Sure.
even make dates and time to cry, to have a salt bath, give myself time to grieve as a part of my self care. So I honor all aspects of this human experience that we're having, not only for
Yeah.
myself, but for every person who comes into contact with me. You know, I want them to know that I'm a living, breathing, walking example of what I'm talking about. When things come up and my friends are like, well, why did you do that? And I said, well, why would I not? I'm having a human experience. Like, I don't expect myself to be perfect anymore. If I say something that didn't feel right, I'm pretty quick to catch it and be like, that was interesting that I just said that. That's not really 100% how I feel. Those words did just come flying out of my mouth. And I have no problem just being impeccable with my words is one of my things that I am constantly wanting to do for myself and for others too. So when I use words that I don't particularly care for, like you should, and never, I laugh when somebody uses that word. I'm like, never. That's really an interesting word. I don't think I've ever met a human being that was perfect all of the time and that never did something or always did something exactly the same way. Yeah. So I think it's beautiful just to allow ourselves to be human and be human with one another.
Yeah, because I like the whole triad of like God, science, and spirituality. I feel like they're so much more interconnected than we've ever given them credit for. And it's like, growing up, you would hear all of the gospel stories forever and a day. And it's like Jesus went
Yeah.
away from the crowds to pray. And like, what the heck was he doing? He was communing with his father. And what do you do when you have a dialogue? There is a part where you talk and there's a part where you listen.
Where you listen.
So it's like, guess what? I think Jesus was meditating.
Yeah.
Like I'm putting such a, you know what I mean? Like, let's
Right.
call a spade a spade. So I mean, I've walked away from religion, at least in the sense of how it has been my whole life, and I think I'm still in this picking up the pieces way of here's how it just makes sense to me in my existence, and I still have to honor my past because it informed everything and blah blah blah. But it's like I also don't have to carry that with me if stuff doesn't. And I'm not saying I'm rewriting the rules, but I'm just like, no, like, science
who
works
would
very
wanna
well
take
with
shame?
religion.
Who wants to take shame with them?
Yeah.
I mean, if I get to choose my own script, I'm not taking shame with me. Shame can stay back there.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But it is a part of
this
our programming. And to
download.
deny that that's the filter that I'm seeing the world would be me doing one of those
Yep.
projection things again. So a part of it for me is like owning my own story. And that is a part of my story. And it doesn't need to be a part of anyone else's. I am still capable of loving an atheist who doesn't believe in God. I don't believe I can coach them.
Yep.
Because if they don't believe in anything bigger than themselves, what are they doing talking to me? Because I'm the miracle lady. I'm the one that was looking for miracles. I'm looking every single day for some strand of hope that there is something greater than myself. And for me, it's not even hope anymore. It's more about I'm wanting to show other people that this, how can you deny this? It's interesting because a lot of my really close friends are Mensa, which means they have an IQ of 140 or above. And a lot of really, really intelligent people don't believe in God. They just don't. So I'm like the unicorn girl. Like nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about because I'm talking about miracles, right? I'm talking about how you can change the way you see the world and how you show up in the world by tweaking your own consciousness. And that doesn't sound as frou-frou because it sounds more science because I'm talking about it from energy, quantum physics, and from science. And I can back it up. I'm here in North Carolina and Dr. Fredrickson teaches at Chapel Hill. And she's done an entire research on the fact that if you have one negative thought and you replace it with 3 positive thoughts, you neutralize it. It takes 3 times more positive thoughts to neutralize a negative thought. This is science,
Mm,
right? That supports prayer.
Yep. Writing that down.
That is science. So yeah, that's my jam. I mean, I love that. I love convincing people of possibilities. I could do a whole podcast on that because I thought, gosh, I used to ask God, like, why did this car wreck take me out? I had a person
Yeah.
try to kill me when I was 3. I was kidnapped when I was 17. Like, I mean, I've had horrific experiences
Yeah.
and I didn't,
Yeah.
none of them took me out. A car wreck took me out. And after the car accident, my memory was so jacked. And I think that's a part of my
Wow.
trauma because I realized in that moment how evil the world is, that someone would even try to take
Yeah.
you out just because you wanted to speak up on a topic that would hinder them from doing those evil things. And now it's okay to talk about it. Interesting of a part of my journey and what's brought me to this place where I am today.
That's so good. Thank you, Lucinda, for being here today and sharing your story. Thanks for listening. I invite you to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, give it a rating, and review while you're at it. It really goes a long way. And check out the show notes for all the ways to stay connected with me and our guests. Until the next episode.